Most people go to the gym to find order. You arrive at 6 p.m., you follow the same circuit, and you see the same faces. It is a highly predictable environment, and that consistency is exactly what makes the space feel safe. Within that routine, a silent agreement begins to form. You start with a head nod to a regular you recognize. Eventually, you graduate to a "what's up?" Because you see these people every day, ignoring them starts to feel like a choice, a rude one. But when your sticky never changes, you become easy to track. A predictable life is a visible life. To someone watching, your habits aren't just a workout. They are a map of exactly where you will be and when you will be there. This behavior follows a specific trajectory, moving from subtle tests of personal space to invasive interactions. We see this pattern in the experiences of three people: Nolan, Louis, and a 25-year-old woman. Each thought they were dealing with an awkward regular until the behavior escalated. In each case, the interaction started with a single moment where the victim chose to be helpful or polite, unknowingly providing the opening the observer was waiting for. The initial phase is often disguised as standard gym etiquette. The goal is to see how much a person will tolerate before they finally say no or walk away. Nolan's experience started when a guy named Josh asked him for a spot on the bench press. It was a normal request, but Josh used those few seconds to lock Nolan into a conversation, asking where he lived and where he worked while Nolan was still standing over the bar. At an LA Fitness, a 25-year-old woman noticed a man sitting on a machine directly behind her. He wasn't lifting weights, he was just leaning forward, watching her through the mirror to see if she would acknowledge his presence or just keep working out. Louis dealt with a girl who spent her time pacing the gym floor. She never touched the equipment. She simply hovered a few feet away from whatever machine Louis was using, waiting to see if he would react to her being uncomfortably close. These aren't just moments of social awkwardness. They are probes designed to measure a victim's willingness to avoid conflict. Once they've confirmed you won't immediately push back, the behavior shifts. The gym walls effectively disappear, and the person proves they can find you in the outside world. Josh eventually lured Nolan to a local bar by lying about a double date. Once Nolan arrived, he realized the date didn't exist. Josh dropped the gym bro persona and spent the night doing deep, raspy movie villain voices and whispering Nolan's name over and over. 2 weeks later, the woman from LA Fitness was at a crowded bar miles away from her gym. She looked toward a small table by the wall and saw the same man who had been watching her in the mirrors, sitting alone and staring directly at her. Louise's situation escalated when his phone buzzed late at night. Even though he'd never shared his address, the girl from the gym sent him messages proving she knew exactly where he lived, warning him to stay away from her ex-boyfriend. This phase is about removing the victim's sense of privacy. It demonstrates the gym was never the only place they had access to you. When the victim finally tries to cut ties, the behavior turns retaliatory. Rejection often forces the situation into a physical confrontation. After Nolan started avoiding him, Josh showed up in the middle of the night. Nolan woke up to a low, spooky voice whispering his name from right outside his first-floor bedroom window. When Nolan threatened to call the police, the response was immediate property damage. He woke up the next morning to find his car tire had been sliced open, a clean, intentional cut to prove he was still being watched. The woman from the gym was running in a nature preserve when she realized a man was jogging behind her, matching her pace perfectly. When she sped up, he sped up. She broke into a full sprint toward the street. Behind her, she heard the man break into a sprint too. He only turned back into the woods when she reached the road and began screaming for help. At Louis's house, the girl from the gym didn't just whisper at the window. She went to the front door and began violently shaking the handle, trying to force her way in. Louis heard a hysterical, unnatural laugh from the other side of the wood. Then his phone buzzed with a new photo. It was the girl standing in his yard, holding a knife. At this level, any pretense of a gym friendship is gone. The person has moved from seeking attention to seeking control through a direct physical threat. The consequences didn't end with police reports. These three people had to change their entire lives, canceling memberships they'd held for years, installing security cameras, and looking over their shoulders every time they walked to their cars. Looking back, the pattern is clear. These individuals relied on their target's desire to be polite. They used the gym's social atmosphere to buy themselves time and access. If someone's behavior feels intrusive, do not wait for it to make sense. Break your routine, set a firm boundary immediately, and do not prioritize being polite over your own intuition. While all 3 of these victims eventually removed the threat, they were forced to pay a high price in their peace of mind. Extracting a person like this from your life is a long, difficult process that starts with the very first no.